In the Mende, Gola, and Gisi languages, Ya means the highest, most exalted, and is added as a prefix or suffix to a name to denote status of a ruler or lord of the land. Kumba is the Gisi name for second daughter. Much of what we know of Queen Yakumba has been passed down through oral traditions and effigies that have been created in her honor, found today among the Gisi people of Liberia, Guinea, and Sierra Leone. Queen Yakumba was the daughter of a captured Gisi princess from the north and a Sherbro king. She ruled her territory with benevolence, abolishing slavery within its boundaries. Many victims of slave raids and other atrocities sought refuge within her kingdom. Queen Yakumba reigned from 1790 until her kingdom succumbed to war and sabotage in the year 1825. The 1825 British record states, whereas the Kusu tribes have commenced hostilities against, overrun, and depopulated part of the territories belonging to Yakumba, Queen of Yakumba, her allies, tributary kings, chiefs, and headmen, and have manifested so determined a spirit as to leave no room to doubt that their ultimate object is to overrun the said territories, to exterminate the present possessors of the soil by the sword or by selling them into slavery. The record further states, and so satisfied thereof is Yakumba, her tributary kings, chiefs, and headmen, that she has of her own free will and accord stepped forward and thrown herself and her country upon the protection of the British government as the surest means of saving herself and her subjects from the destruction threatened by their cruel and implacable enemies. While it may be true that the Kuso, also known as the Mende, invaded and captured portions of the territory within the dominion of Queen Yakumba, enslaving its inhabitants and wreaking all kinds of terror upon those in the vicinity. What we do know for a fact is that Queen Yakumba was never present, nor did she in person surrender her territory and dominion to the British in exchange for protection. She was instead represented by notorious slave dealers Thomas and George Corker, who the British claimed to have been her lawful representatives and next of kin. The truth is, Thomas and George Corker, who signed for Queen Yakumba, were actually the descendants of a British slave merchant who had children with a Sherbro princess. When he returned to England, his sons continued the savage family business of trading in human beings. As if that were not enough, the Calkers and their allies went on to aid and abet the British in a massive land grab and the ultimate subjugation of the inhabitants of the area. While the history books say that the British abolished the transatlantic slave trade in 1807, it is a fact that hundreds of thousands of people were still uprooted, kidnapped, and enslaved and sent across the Atlantic. And this, no doubt, was the fate of many of the inhabitants of the kingdom of Yakumba. Spanish slavers took them to places like Cuba, Spanish Florida, the seacoasts of Georgia and South Carolina. If you let them tell the story, Robert Winslow Gordon is credited with writing the song Come By Here after visiting the seacoast islands and hearing the Gullah Geechee people singing Kumbaya. His assumption was it was a mispronunciation of Come By Here. And that is the official title and explanation for the origin of the song.
Collard green neck bone heat.